Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind.
Kamala, where are the children? Kamala, where are the children?
America, what if I told you that the United States federal government was running the largest child trafficking network in the history of the world?
The U.S. has become the middleman in a multi-billion-dollar migrant child trafficking operation at the border.
Experts have told us that these kids are being drugged with Rohypnol to prevent them from telling authorities that these are not my parents. That's why they drug these children, so that these children are able to get trafficked across the border.
And that's what happens when you have these soft immigration policies that are allowing people to come in droves.
Say you're a family, and we'll take your word for it.
Are you ashamed for what you've done to this country?
America, what if I told you that the United States Border Patrol agents would create a public-private partnership with Mexican cartels so they could traffic in unaccompanied alien children into America?
We have people in there that have been bought out, unfortunately. That's a reality.
Should Secretary Mayorkas be impeached, sir?
No, sir. No, sir. No, sir.
How can you say no when you know he's broken his oath?
The DHS under Mayorkas sent a memo out asking the Border Patrol agents to withhold information from the Office of Inspector General.
It's corrupt. It's corruption. And it all starts at the top.
America, what if I told you that this entire operation was the Democrat agenda and it was being bankrolled by Republicans? Would you believe me, or would you call me a conspiracy theorist?
The power of the purse, and we will use it, and we will use it. One is oversight. And that's a job that we have, and also, of course, the use of the power of the purse. We need accountability, and we will hold these administrators accountable.
The Democrats got everything they want in the spending, and all the hawks got what they want, too.
All of this while the border is yet to be secured. Well, why? Why do you think that is?
They're afraid of the agencies. That's not compatible with democracy.
Yes, you heard that right. The U.S. government has been hijacked by a network of elite pedophiles so entrenched that they are practically the wallpaper in Congress, the Senate, the White House, and every three-letter agency you can name. By the end of this, you won't just see your government differently. You'll see it for the cesspit of corruption and moral decay it truly is. Get ready to have your world rocked.
Whatever happened to the power of the purse? But for some reason, Republicans in the Senate are afraid to do this, and I can't for the life of me understand why.
I think the reason is because they're threatened.
Because they've been compromised by some of these Codell trips overseas, where these members of both the House and the Senate get compromised by sleeping with children.
Washington, D.C. is ground zero for pedophilia among the elite.
And this continues on through the White House, through the Justice Department. It's not a swamp, it's an open sewer.
Everyone in this room knows what an Amber Alert is. We all get them on our phones, right? This is when a child has been kidnapped. And we are so concerned in this country about children who have been kidnapped that we have something called an Amber Alert, notifying all of us that there is a missing child. 85,000 children missing, migrant children missing in the United States, is the same thing as 85,000 Amber Alerts.
According to a new DHS report, Kamala Harris also lost more than 300,000 migrant children that she allowed to be trafficked into our country. These children are gone. Many of them are dead, and many of them are in sex rings and all sorts of things going on. It's a terrible thing, and nobody does anything about it.
How many of those children have you rescued? Can
Senator,
you give me a number?
You are conflating issues.
So you can't give me a number. You haven't rescued any of these children. You haven't gotten any of them back. It doesn't sound to me like this is a priority, and I have to tell you, that's what your own agents tell me as well.
Senator, I follow the rules scrupulously.
What are these wristbands?
I don't know what they are.
You don't know what they are. These are children being sold into sex slavery, and you don't even know what they are. That is astonishing, Mr. Secretary.
Look at this kid is drugged. Look at that. Wow.
Today, I stand before you, not as an ordinary individual, but as a chosen servant. I've been sent on a divine mission. You may ask, where is God in all this chaos? Well, I ask you in return, who do you think sent me? I am here to speak about the mission that has been laid upon my heart. A mission so urgent, so monumental, that it resonates with the very essence of human compassion and divine justice. God has revealed to me a grave injustice. 437,103 unaccompanied alien children have been trafficked into America since the Biden administration took office. These are not just numbers. These are lives, souls, children who are in dire need of rescue from the shadows of the American nightmare that they are living. Where is God? He is here, working through us, through me, to right these wrongs. I stand before you wearing the armor of God, not as a physical metal, but as an unyielding faith, courage, and righteousness. I am here to declare that I am unafraid of the daunting task, unafraid of confrontation, and unapologetic in my mission. For those who might question or depose my divine calling, I urge you to reconsider. This is a mission about saving children, about restoring innocence. God's children are not for sale. If you so much as touch a hair on one of their precious little heads, it's men like me who plan to hunt you down. You ask, where is God? He is in the resolve of the willing to act, in the hearts of those who still believe in justice, in the hands that reach out to lift these children from the abyss. God has not abandoned us. He has empowered us, giving us the strength to be His hands and His feet in this world. Let it be known that through prayer, action, and unwavering faith, we will not only rescue these children, but also illuminate a path for others to follow. We will show that when God calls, His servants answer, ready to face any challenge, armed with love, truth, and the undefeated will to serve. To those who might think of obstructing or undermining this sacred duty, I pray for your soul. Forgiveness is between you and your God. I've just been sent to arrange the meeting.
Another message to the criminal cartels in Mexico.
We will show no mercy to the cartels.
He's going to designate you a terrorist organization, and he's going to wipe you off the face of the earth.
Drug smugglers and human traffickers receive the death penalty.
You're done! You're done!
We've got a new administration coming in. I've heard some comments by some of the nominees, because as has been stated, there's at least, I think 320,000 is the number that I've heard here in the United States.
DHS issued a report stating the number lost UACs was not 85,000, it was over 320,000.
Trafficked, exploited, and the staggering 320,000 missing migrant children.
When you hear the number, 320,000 missing children can be hard to wrap your mind around what a figure like that might look like. I need you to understand the full scale of this operation so you can comprehend how corrupt our government really is. The video you are watching on the screen is Michigan University's football stadium called the Big House, the largest football stadium in America with a seating capacity of 100,000. If we take three of those stadiums and we set them side by side, this will give you a great visualization of what 323,000 missing children would look like. On August 19th of 2024, the Office of Inspector General and the Department of Homeland Security released a report that stated HHS had taken custody of over 448,820 UACs. UAC stands for Unaccompanied Alien Child. These are children that arrive at the U.S. border without a parent. As of August 24th, 2024, HHS has openly admitted to losing 323,000 children. Now, in order to understand why I say people like DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, HHS Secretary Xavier Becerra, and ORR Director Robert Merkos will be sentenced to death if they are found guilty of the crimes that we expose in our documentary. To grasp the full implications of this situation, it's important to understand the roles and responsibilities of these key figures and their respective organizations in managing the issue of unaccompanied alien children. HHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, as the head of the Department of Homeland Security, he oversees border security and immigration enforcement, which directly impacts the intake and initial processing of UACs. Next, we have HHS Secretary Xavier Becerra. The Department of Health and Human Services under Becerra takes custody of UACs once they cross the border. HHS, through its Office of Refugee Resettlement, is responsible for the care, placement, and eventual release of these children. Next, we have ORR Director Robin Marcos. As the Director of the Office of Refugee Resettlement, Marcos oversees the welfare and placement of these children in the U.S., including ensuring they are placed in safe environments. The Office of Refugee Resettlement, led by Marcos, is central to this crisis. Allegations against these officials suggest systemic failures, criminal neglect, trafficking of children across state lines, child endangerment, and crimes against humanity, all of which could lead to severe legal consequences when proven in court. Let's start with ORR. The Office of Refugee Resettlement, ORR, is ran by Robin Marcos. If we swing over to ORR's website, we can find the unaccompanied children released to sponsors state by state. On the left, you will see the state. At the top, you will see the year, 2015 all the way to the left, and up to July 2024 on the right. If we scroll down to the bottom of the page, we can see the total number of unaccompanied migrant children who came across that border without a parent. The first number I have highlighted is 2020. During Trump's last year as president, only 16,837 UACs arrived at the border without a parent. Not one of those 16,837 children were released to an unvetted sponsor. Under the Trump administration, every child that arrived at the border was DNA tested. The only way a child could be released to an adult is if the parent took a DNA test. Fast forward 1 year, Biden takes office, and the numbers explode by 639%. In 2021, 107,646 UACs arrived at the southern border. In 2022, 127,447. 2023, 113,495. And, last but not least, 88,515 UACs arrived at the southern border as of July 1st, 2024. Since Joe Biden took office and Kamala Harris was appointed the border czar, 437,103 migrant children, ranging in age from 0 to 17, were delivered to Border Patrol agents by Mexican cartels. That's an average of 124,886 children per year that arrive at the U.S. border in search of the American dream, only to find out that they've been sold into the American nightmare. Over a 3.5-year period, HHS is admitted to losing 323,000 migrant children. 323,000 divided by 3.5 gives us roughly 92,857 per year. Do you guys remember receiving 92,000 Amber Alerts last year? I sure don't. If we take 92,857 and we divide that by 365 days per year, you can see that on average, 252 migrant children vanish every single day. Could you imagine getting 250 Amber Alerts every day? That's 11 per hour. So I ask you, America, where the hell are the missing 323,000 children?
There's more than 300,000 children. Over 300,000 children, they came through the border, they released them, and we don't know where they are.
The question they don't want us asking is, where are all the missing children? What happens to these children? How can hundreds of thousands of kids go missing in the United States every year and nobody knows where they are? They just vanish? I don't think so.
Kamala, where are the children? Kamala, where are the children?
Now, in order to answer the question where, first let me explain how. And in order to show you how that the United States government has entered this public-private partnership with these cartels, in order to show you how HHS and DHS and Border Patrol agents have replaced the mules, the smugglers, and the cartels, I need to show you how a normal trafficking operation runs, so that way when we come back and compare them later, you can understand side by side. Now, in order to answer the question where, first let me explain how. In order to understand how these children are vanishing, we first need to start at the beginning. Plausible deniability. Plausible deniability is the ability to deny knowledge of or responsibility for actions taken by others, often to avoid blame. This is where we first uncover the public-private partnership that DHS has made with these Mexican cartels. Let's take a look at how these child trafficking networks work and how their checkpoints are structured. Number 1, you have the merchandiser, the victim. Number 2, recruiter or kidnapper. 3, smuggler. 4, cartels. 5, the country of Mexico. 6, mules. 7, child traffickers. 8, stash house. 9, buyer. And number 10, once they make it into America, they are now living the U.S. nightmare. Now, before I can explain how this operation runs, I need you to understand a few things first. When we are discussing child trafficking, there are 3 critical phases that are very dangerous for the trafficker. Phase 1, and the least dangerous of all, is gaining possession of the child. This is the initial step, which might be the least risky, but sets the foundation for all subsequent exploitation, involving acquiring the child. Now, these methods can include kidnapping, which is forcibly taking a child against their will, coercion, which is manipulating or deceiving the child or their family into compliance, and number 3 is buying, purchasing the child from an impoverished family or directly from other traffickers. Now, phase 2 is the second most dangerous part of the journey for the child trafficker, and that is smuggling the child across the border. This is the second most perilous leg of the operation for the trafficker due to the risk of border patrols, detection by authorities, and physical challenges of moving individuals across the nation's boundaries. Phase 3, delivering the child or the merchandise to a buyer in America. This phase tops the list as the most dangerous for the trafficker. It involves navigating through local law enforcement, potential witnesses, and a complex network of distribution, all while avoiding detection in the country with extensive surveillance and legal consequences for human trafficking. Let's talk about one example of how these traffickers get these children out of third world countries. In impoverished villages of third world countries, traffickers, aka or recruiters, employ deceptive tactics to coax family members into relinquishing their children. They often masquerade around as high-end nannying agencies, promising that a child will serve the household of American celebrities, thus offering them a shot at the American dream. Unfortunately for the child, once they are under the trafficker's control, they are savagely raped and beaten into submission. These children are quickly reminded of their dire consequences of resistance or escape. The threat of cartel violence against their family back home ensures compliance. This is but one method among many that traffickers use to acquire children. After securing the child from the village, they pass them into the hands of smugglers, who then transport them to Mexico. Here, the trade in human lives has become horrifyingly efficient. Children have turned into the highest liquid commodity. To draw a parallel, just as one might steal a car and sell it quickly to a chop shop in Detroit, in Mexico, a child can be sold for $3,000 almost immediately. Some traffickers boast about abducting 3 to 5 children every day. This rampant trafficking contributes to the phenomenon of children from 180 different countries appearing in Mexico, each with their own heroic journey and desperate story, driven by the darkest machinery of human trafficking. From there, the cartels will traffic the children through Mexico to the U.S. border. Once they arrive at the border, the child will be trafficked into America by a mule. The mule only has one mission, taking the merchandise across the border and delivering the merchandise to the trafficker. Once the trafficker has the child in the United States, he will take the child to a stash house. A child trafficking stash house refers to a location used by human traffickers where children or minors are temporarily held during the process of trafficking. Children are often kept here after being moved from one place to another, especially if there's a need to change transportation, await payment, or further instructions. Sometimes these locations are used for direct exploitation, such as forced labor or sexual exploitation. Traffickers will use these houses to maintain control over their victims, often through physical enforcement, psychological manipulation, or threats of violence.
Così el dinero de los dos, porque si no dice que lo voy a matar si no cortalo un dedo.
Once the payment for the child has been confirmed, the child trafficker will complete the most dangerous leg of the journey, delivering the child to a buyer in America. After that child is delivered to a buyer, there is less than a 1% chance that that child will ever be seen alive again. Now that you understand how normal child trafficking networks work, what do you think that network would look like if we turn those Border Patrol agents into mules, HHS employees into child traffickers, stash houses into NGOs, and we found a way to legally buy off or compromise local law enforcement? It would look like the world's largest child trafficking network sponsored by the United States government and funded with U.S. tax dollars. But don't take my word for it.
It is government-sponsored, taxpayer-funded child trafficking.
They were being trafficked with billions of taxpayer dollars by a contractor failing to vet sponsors and process children safely, with government officials complicit in it.
The federal government is a last-mile delivery for human trafficking, that they're being trafficked through Mexico, and the federal government and the federal taxpayer then picks up the last-mile delivery in human trafficking.
Have you ever seen a video of cartels bringing their drugs over the border wall and dropping them down to Border Patrol agents? No, me either.
U.S. Border Patrol released this nighttime video of a border wall drop-off.
And then moments later, you see another. The smugglers can be seen then running away. U.S. authorities rescued the children. Turns out they are sisters from Ecuador, just 3 and 5 years old, and the girls are now safely in U.S. custody.
Why would a human trafficker go through all the trouble of kidnapping a child, trafficking the child through Mexico, just so they could turn the child over to local law enforcement at the border? The answer is they would never do that. But yet, you could simply search YouTube, cartel drops child over border wall, and you can see 50 plus videos in a matter of seconds. This means that it happens consistently.
We got an unaccompanied minor right here, guys. This is heartbreaking right here. ¿Vienes sola, verdad? ¿Ahí viene tu mami y tu papá? ¿Tu papi está en el cielo? ¿Y tu mami?
You'll never see them again. They featured in the documentary yesterday, that little girl. It was the one little girl in the video that you just saw her face. Yep. We literally rescued that kid. We pulled her off to the side and we took her to the Border Patrol, only to then be mistreated like if we were doing something wrong by Border Patrol. It's crazy.
Meet Anthony Aguero. You might recognize his face from the recent James O'Keefe documentary called Line in the Sand. Or you might recognize his work that was featured in both of our documentaries, What is Treason #Trafficked and What is Treason #Invaded. Both films are available for sale at www.thisistreason.com.
There are a couple of documentaries that are out there about what's happened to over 300,000 children who have crossed the borders, the open borders, and they have been sex trafficked. These documentaries cost a lot to make, so there is a charge to watch them, $10 minimal, but still expensive for some. Is there anything that you can do to make these documentaries more widespread and available?
Well, that's good. That's a good point.
After premiering my first two documentaries, What is Treason #Trafficked and What is Treason #Invaded, it hit me. Locking these films behind a paywall isn't just un-American, it's counterproductive to our cause. How can we save these children if their stories aren't reaching every corner of the nation? That is why I've decided to foot the bill for this next film out of my own pocket. No partners, no strings attached, so I can give it away for free. We are talking about a production cost somewhere between $25,000 and $50,000. I know how tight money is for everybody, especially living in the Biden-Harris America. But if you can so much as skip a cup of coffee, even just a small donation, it would mean everything. Every dollar you chip in will be plowed right back into producing my next documentary. You can donate directly by going to my personal GiveSendGo at www.givesendgo.com/Operation Amber Alert. Now, if you'd like to go a step further and you are interested in becoming a part of history, join me on Locals as a monthly supporter and become a crucial part of my journey as a documentary filmmaker. Your support will not only grant you access to exclusive behind-the-scenes content and early film releases, but you will directly fund the travel and expenses required to expose these pedophiles and this political corruption across our nation. Let's uncover the truth together. Sign up today and be a beacon for change in the world of documentary filmmaking.
No, they're sedated. They are sedated. Look at them.
Where do you draw the line if you're working on that border, if you're working in one of these NGO facilities where the kids are being housed, whether you're part of this whole cover-up of this invasion of our nation? Where do you stand? Where do you draw that line in the sand between collecting your damn paycheck and doing what's right?
To me right now, it's the kids, man. I've never seen the situation over the kids like I've seen it these last 4 years. It's just gruesome. And it's just turned me into, it's just woken up a different side of me, especially that I have kids and I'm seeing them. And then I go back to the border and I see these kids and it's like, shit, bro, like.
Well, explain that. How did that interaction go down?
We arrived with the child and I remember being a smart ass back with the guy. I told him, I'm sorry to cuss. I said, I'm fucking doing your job. The least you could do is be fucking nice, appreciative. It's on footage. He was pissed off that we were like, hey, get back. I'm like, dude, she's a little girl, bro. Like,
she looked like she was 10.
Tiny.
You guys were walking up and basically delivering somebody. The Border Patrol agents weren't getting out, like you just said. They were mad at you for rescuing a child.
And then we gotta also think, there's children that have been through the border multiple times. There's kids that literally get recycled. They come across the border and they get in with the trafficker because they didn't complain. They just, yeah, it's my dad, my uncle, caretaker, Boom. That guy has already gamed the system. He's in the U.S. Miguelito goes back to their side of the border and does the whole trajectory all over again because there's no DNA testing being done. And even though they might do the retina in their eyes, there's nothing stopping them from, hey, this is not your kid. They can't stop them. They continue to process. Where in good faith do you as an agent continue just to do this? When do you say, I can't deal with this anymore? How can you continue to do that? It's just a job. Are you not capable of doing anything else other than process and traffic children? You're literally an extension to the trafficking machine. You're the processing line. You're known as the Uber patrol to the cartel. They use you as an extension. You work as hard as the cartel wants you to work. You're on their dime. You're on their call. When they call you, you're there. When they need your ass to go pick these people up, you're there. You don't get a pass anymore. We know what's going on. So you're either, what side of history do you want to be on?
250 children every day are delivered to a pedophile or a sex trafficker.
Biden administration says bring America to its knees by disrupting completely the immigration system as it stands today. This took a lot of prior planning, and it started back in the Obama days. And there's one thread that's continuous from Obama all the way through to Biden, okay?
Mayorkas.
Alejandro Mayorkas. The man has been training for decades. He knew how to surgically tear apart our immigration system. We used to have 23,000 Border Patrol agents to handle the entirety of the southern border. We're down to under 15,000. And we can't keep up with attrition, retirements, or people just quitting because they just can't handle what they're seeing anymore. We have a record number of entries this country's never seen before. Child trafficking for sex, for labor, or for organs. Adult trafficking, male and female trafficking at record high levels. The FBI, who we can't trust with anything. When illegal aliens commit homicides and crimes, they don't even count it. And this network has been going on this entire time.
These children are getting delivered to a vetted sponsor.
You said that you were on vacation, and now you're moving this small child to the airport. I thought you were on vacation.
And then these children are running away from that sponsor.
Yeah, they're trying to escape.
I don't have a feeling. What do you mean? I don't feel sad. I don't feel mad. I don't feel happy.
You can't ask any questions about the sponsor. You can't look into it. You can't investigate. You just release them to wherever they're going to go.
There's no ID check. Why weren't there ID checks? If I was going to go here and talk to anybody.
And that's where our responsibility ends.
They're using WhatsApp, and they're texting somebody that's supposed to be the sponsor, and the sponsor is submitting them identification. It's overwhelmingly obvious that that ID is fake, and they're being told that their job is not to investigate.
Smuggling humans has become more lucrative than smuggling drugs. You can sell a drug once, you can sell a human 5-6 times for decades.
They had started with 2 Airbus 320s or 360s, I forget what model it is, but they're about $350 million. Today, 4 years later, they have 17. Their company's worth billions of dollars now. And pilots have said that they've taken the same migrant back home 14 times.
Couldn't get any worse.
Our government has now taken over the most 2 dangerous legs of the journey for the child trafficker, and they've turned our government into the largest child trafficking network that the world has ever seen. A child comes to their custody, and that sweet, innocent child sees a man in a green uniform, and that is the last authority figure that they see before they're delivered into the American nightmare. And these children are chained in basements, and they're raped 7 to 10 times a day if they're lucky. Those are the good ones.
Yeah.
The bad ones, it's 30 to 40 times a day.
Yeah. Alejandro Mayorkas. This man is a mastermind. He's a chess player. When he's sitting before Congress, he is the smartest man in the room. He has no reason to fear anybody in that room. All he's got to do is sit there with a smirk on his face and keep repeating the same old lie. We're executing the plan. And the plan is to completely flood America with so many illegal aliens in this country that at one point or another, and by the way, who are they going to be loyal to?
Let's strip away the euphemisms and face the stark reality. Those children that are being hoisted over the border wall like packages, they are not seeking refuge. Each child is a commodity, a transaction in human flesh.
They're a commodity. So human life, human beings are a commodity to these ruthless smugglers, and we know exactly the tactics of these people. And for them, it's just a profit.
My understanding is that you went to the southern border. Now, you're saying that you're going to give people facts. What did you take away from that experience, and what kind of reporting are you going to be bringing back from that experience?
I'll tell you a fact I took away. I talked to the head of all the border guards down there, the head of the union. I asked him straight up, kids are coming over the border with numbers written on them, phone numbers and addresses. Do we check those out? He said, well, we call them. Is it possible that we're sending them into known prostitution rings or sweatshops? He said, it's not possible. It is absolute. We are using American tax dollars to ship children into known prostitution.
Thanks to the system engineered by Alejandro Mayorkas and Xavier Becerra, these kids are prepared for delivery. The Department of Homeland Security, under their watch, mandates that these kids, once in custody, get processed. The cartels, they're not just aware. They are orchestrating this like a well-oiled machine. Every unaccompanied alien child crossing that border comes with a label, not unlike a price tag. Some might have name tags, others badges, or the more brazen ones just have a piece of paper pinned to their shirt. What's on this paper? The names, addresses, and phone numbers of the adult sponsor. But let's call it what it is, the buyer's details. Border Patrol agents, following protocol, log this information into the child's file, labeling it as their sponsor. But in the dark underworld of human trafficking, these sponsors are the buyers and the end consumers in this grotesque market. So what does this mean for the cartels? No more need for risky smuggling operations or hiring coyotes. They've gamified the system. Pin the buyer's information on the child, and immigration policy does the rest. It's a conveyor belt of exploitation, where the children are delivered, not to safety, but into the hands of those who purchase them. This isn't just a failure of policy. It's a blueprint of human trafficking, sanctioned by the very system it's meant to protect. This isn't just a public-private partnership. It's a well-oiled machine of human trafficking with layers of plausible deniability that would make any criminal empire proud. Here's how it works. Border Patrol agents get a child pre-labeled with sponsored details, which is just a sanitized term for buyer. They then pass the child off to HHS, which is Health and Human Services, signaling they've got a package ready. HHS, ever efficient, calls in an NGO, which is a non-governmental organization, not as a savior, but as a delivery man. The NGOs, under the guise of humanitarian aid, pick up the child, delivering him to an HHS intake facility. For 2 to 14 days, the child is in this initial intake process. But what's really happening, HHS is now formally recognizing the buyer as the sponsor. The vetting process begins, but let's be clear, this isn't about safeguarding the child. It's about ensuring the transaction is clean. Once the sponsor passes their quote-unquote qualified check, HHS, with clinical detachment, hands the child back to the NGO. The child, now just cargo, moves from the intake facility to a long-term care facility also ran by the same NGO. This isn't care, it's a stash house where the child is kept until the buyer's paperwork is in order. Finally, when HHS gives the green light, the NGO, with chilling precision, arranges for the child's delivery.
They're unifying children with random people here in the United States from a piece of paper that the child has turned in to Border Patrol. That defies belief.
HHS wasn't just an agency. It was at the nerve center of the largest child trafficking operation in history.
Despite raising case after case of trafficking, HHS ORR leadership and the contractor allowed children to be trafficked on their watch.
I could not believe that a federal government agency is using billions of taxpayer dollars to place vulnerable migrant children into the hands of sponsors with criminal history, gang affiliation, to whom many are not even their parents.
HHS employees, under the guise of child welfare, engage in what essentially amounts to vetting buyers for human commodities.
We never saw sponsors face to face, and fake documents were rampant. When we questioned documents, HHS ORR leadership said, "You're not a fake ID expert, and your job is not to investigate the sponsor. Your job is to reunify the child with the sponsor."
This isn't about mismanagement or oversight failures. It's about deliberate, government-sanctioned mechanisms that use the guise of child protection to facilitate trafficking on a scale previously unimaginable.
We were Googling IDs from Texas, IDs from Minnesota, IDs from Tennessee, and we would have to figure out if that in fact matched that ID that they were turning in. That is how crazy it was. There was no training at all. There was no system that would, and I'm sure there is, because if we all have an ID number and they scan your ID anywhere you go or they input your information, I'm sure 100%. It tells them that they're where we live or whatnot. We didn't have anything like that. We were getting copies of a copy of an ID. That was us doing fingerprints and background.
My name is Mayra Moreno, and I am not representing anybody. I'm not representing the government or the company. I'm only talking about what I witnessed and my personal experience.
So you've received no training. You're then verifying documents that these sponsors
legal documents.
Legal documents. Legal documents to verify that they are who they say they are, that they actually have a legit form of ID, so we can actually understand who this child is going to. They're giving you fake documents, which we know are fake, so we assume that the name is fake, the address can be fake, right. And then you guys are verifying that the only verification you're doing is just looking on Google to see if the ID looks like a Tennessee ID.
Right.
And you're looking at a photocopy of a photocopy. Mm-hmm. And then you're going on Google and going, yeah, I think this photocopy of a photocopy looks. That's the extent of the background check that is done.
Right.
What
and
about
then when you're doing, when you're verifying their home, everything was through like Google Maps, Google Earth, and MapQuest. And so you would input the address, and then you would see a house. Sometimes you would see a building. Sometimes you would see a hotel. That was us verifying that in fact they did live there. Not until Deborah was the first person there that found child trafficking. Deborah, or Debbie, informs Tara and another federal employee who go to the microphone where we're working at, and they make an announcement. And they said, everybody, go to your computer, open MapQuest or Google Earth or whatnot, punch in this address. And everybody's punching the address. And they said, okay, now click, and everybody did. And then you just hear like people gasping because it was a strip club. That the address, we were sending people to like a motorhome complex, and then right next to it, it was a strip club. And they had already sent multiple children to that address.
These are apartment buildings that are right by Andy's Golden Salon. And what we've heard is Andy's Golden Salon is actually like a sex ring. By the time I had left, 329 children and counting were being sent. 319 children.
Why wouldn't it stop though? Why would you not?
Meet Deborah White, HHS whistleblower. She was originally stationed at the Pomona Fairgrounds, one of the initial child migrant intake centers. She was thrust into the heart of this operation, giving access to multiple databases. Deborah didn't just stumble upon discrepancies, she uncovered the systemic nature of this trafficking network.
When I presented this case and I said, we have 329 children that have been sent to either 6111 Gulf Freeway or 6113, they basically said, Deborah, what you're showing us here is like speculation. And I'm like, well, 329 kids, I don't think that's speculation, like that's fact, it's in the portal. They said, well, ethnic groups, kind of gather together. So a lot of times, I'm like, it's not physically possible to house, a garden apartment has maybe 12 units? I was like, you can't house 329 kids in 24 units, right? Because it's two buildings, 6113, 6111, right?
I'm at a location of 3600 Telephone Road and Betty Street. You're looking at a location here where we have reports of unaccompanied alien children have been sent to this location over the last 3 years. The number is over 500 children sent to this home here and the adjacent commercial building, which is a catering hall for parties. You can see the big fence here, this high 13-foot fence here or so that's been put up recently. You can tell it's new. It's got cameras on it. And what you have here is some cargo containers now used for storage. You see multiple goes all the way to the back. These children have also been sent to this apartment complex here, reportedly Gateway House Apartments. There are more migrants out there. There are Victory Apartments as well. And this whole apartments go all the way down to the end of the street.
So I did my due diligence. I would do aerial views. I would do front views. That's how I caught many cases that were going to dilapidated houses. They look condemned, like boarded up, no windows or boarded up. In this case, this has a facility right next door that is basically a no-window facility, okay? So Andy's Golden Reception Hall is known for potentially sex trafficking, that kind of thing. But it's not been shut down. People know about it, but it's not been shut down. And we were sending kids.
When Deborah, armed with damning evidence, laid out how 329 children were funneled into these addresses, her supervisor's response? Speculation. As if proximity and sheer numbers were just a coincidence. Now let's crunch the numbers from Apartments.com on Gatehouse Apartments, which were built in 1971. Here's the math. Total, they only have 50 units. 10 units are one-bedroom pads, each with a tight 684 square feet. 30 units, 2 bedrooms, and 10 units have 3 bedrooms. That's 100 rooms in total. To call Deborah's detailed report speculation is absurd. We are talking about cramming 7 kids into every single apartment. This isn't speculation. It's a glaring red flag of a systemic child trafficking right under our noses, dismissed by just the wave of a hand, as if the truth doesn't matter. But the story gets worse. One of those quote-unquote children that got delivered to that address was a 40-year-old woman posing as a 17-year-old child.
This is a 17-year-old.
Oh, dear God.
This is a 17-year-old.
How does that get through? And if
That's what I said. How did it get through?
How many 26-year-olds get through?
Right, exactly.
Tons and tons
exactly.
and tons because they know.
Yeah. Just us, we had 43. We had 43 age redeterminations, which means they gave us fraudulent birth certificates.
This wasn't just happening at one facility. It was the modus operandi at HHS intake centers nationwide. At Pomona Fairgrounds, Deborah dealt with 43 age redetermination cases before she left. Adults posing as children to gamify the system with audacious deceit. This is where we cross the line from negligence to outright criminal intent, from child welfare to child trafficking. What types of documentation were you guys being told to accept? Like, this person's coming from Guatemala, so he probably doesn't have a U.S. birth certificate or a U.S. passport or a passport at all.
Their country passport. Oh, they don't have an ID. Okay, whatever from their country. So now I was revising documentation that was not from the United States. I mean, I grew up here. I'm familiar with our paper, our IDs and all that stuff. Now I had to revise documentation from other countries that honestly it was like, what is this?
Wait, so you just said any document, so it could be a birth certificate from another country?
Yes.
No photo on that?
There's no photo in birth certificates.
So you were being ordered, say that was signed off on by a higher up saying that we'll accept this type of document? Mm-hmm. And you're releasing a child to an unknown adult male. This could be a 49-year-old male that's, let's say he's black, and you could be releasing a 3-year-old Chinese girl to somebody that's obviously a different race, and the only document you have could be a birth certificate from Africa?
Yeah, or even a notarized letter, which...
A notarized letter?
Which is like, I don't know the notary. I mean, over here, I know in America, we have our regulations with notarized documents and stuff. And even like that, sometimes there's issues, right? Now you're dealing with notarized.
I can get you anything
from
notarized
other
for $50.
Countries that, exactly.
My best friend she's certified. Anytime I need anything notarized, I got it, $50. Doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah.
So you're handing a child over to somebody that's just giving you some type of notarized piece of paper from some notary, and these notaries didn't even have to be a United States notary, or they did?
No.
This is insanity. I mean, there's so many crimes being committed by our own government. It's not laughable because it's children, but like you're telling me these stories, and I'm just like, I laughed a minute ago. Like, it's so unbelievable that this is happening. You can't even describe it to anybody. Myra, Catherine, and Deborah were handed fake IDs by the so-called sponsors. When they raised alarms, the response? Dismissal, as if the concerns were trivial.
You were checking, you were doing your job, and if you were taking a long time releasing that child, you would get in trouble. They would yell at you. What's taking you so long? You're not doing your job. They would use fear tactics, shaming tactics, If you would start questioning hey, this doesn't look right, this is clearly abuse or whatnot, they would fire you on the spot for talking back or just trying to protect the child.
We have 3 federal whistleblowers, Deborah White among them, who have laid bare this scheme before Congress. They documented evidence, like the HHS Field Program Specialist, Adriana Lynch, who knew that these IDs were fraudulent, yet did nothing. Deborah confirmed it herself with the embassy, only to be punished by Lynch for overstepping.
So like when I called the consulate to verify some documents, I got reprimanded. Adriana Lynch comes over to me and she says, "You're never to call the consulate again. I heard that you called the consulate. That is my job. You are never to call them again." So I got in trouble. She was the person who was verifying, like if we thought we had a fake document, like we were to send it to her, and then she would send it to the consulate and come back and tell us that like it wasn't fake or it was fake.
The United States government, with all of its technological powers, could very easily verify these documents in a heartbeat if they wanted to. But it doesn't.
I mean, between facial recognition software, voice recognition software, and all the different ways to track people, how can we in this day and age not be able to find them? How can hundreds of thousands of children have disappeared? The United States is the #1 destination in the world for sex trafficking, that every sex trafficking ring worldwide knows bring the kids to the United States, that this administration is participating in the trafficking of kids because they're paying companies, LLCs, and nonprofits and church groups, they're paying them to take these kids and disappear them.
We have on a manifest here that this child is going to a place that we've already identified as trafficking. You know, I need to make sure that you understand. And they're like, Tara, you do understand that we only get sued if we keep kids in care too long. And then she leaned in and she said, we don't get sued by traffickers. Are we clear?
To every attorney watching, reach out. There are crimes being exposed here that demand legal repercussions. When a federal employee says, I'm just doing my job, it's a confession of cowardice, complicity in a system designed to exploit children. And for the spouses of those Border Patrol agents who facilitate child trafficking, how do you sleep knowing your partner is a cog in a child trafficking machine run by cartels with the tactical approval of our own government?
Every single agent knows deep in his heart what's going on is wrong. Children get trafficked every day. We don't take their biographical info. We're very busy up there. We're overran with children we can't keep track of. Where are those children going? We don't know. We can have plausible deniability. If you can sleep at night with plausible deniability, it sickens me to my core.
At HHS, we follow the law. Employers and companies should do the same. HHS is proud to do our part in the critical work to care for unaccompanied children. We have a dedicated team of professionals at ORR who oversee their care and placement with vetted sponsors. I hold our team and the entire department to the highest standard to ensure we are delivering on our mission to provide care that is in the child's best interest.
Fact number 1, HHS axed the rapid DNA testing that took just 45 minutes to confirm family relations.
They said it takes up too much time.
Oh.
You know how long it takes? 45 minutes. And you can confirm if this child is related to this adult or not. 45 minutes.
A measure that effectively prevented child trafficking. Under Trump, these tests revealed that 40% of the adults crossing with kids were not related.
Let's put this in perspective. When I was ICE director under President Trump, we did Operation Matador, a gang enforcement operation in Long Island. We arrested just short of 500 gang members, most of them MS-13. 42% of them entered the country as a family unit. So the family units there's some valid family units that come across that border, I get it, but a lot of the family units aren't even family units. Under the Trump administration, we did DNA testing. What's the first thing Biden administration did? Killed DNA. We don't know how many families are actually families. So children are being trafficked.
Fact number 2, HHS engineered a database trifecta designed to stymie proper vetting of sponsors. Deborah, through sheer determination, cross-referencing these databases, uncovered the delivery of 329 children to one complex. Her reward? A dismissive pat on the back, followed by revoked database access for all, ensuring that the system obfuscation continued. This is why kids were handed over to men living at strip clubs.
HHS ORR and Cherokee Federal, the prime contractor, created a quote-unquote strike team to remove children faster ignoring warnings that came from case managers that children were being trafficked. As a certified project manager and contracting official, I could have ensured that the contract terms and conditions were upheld, but my offers for help were repeatedly rejected.
Fact 3. Case managers at HHS were using Google like fortune tellers, vetting undocumented sponsors with zero training, speed over accuracy, question too much or work too slowly, and you'll find yourself escorted out by security during shift change. A spectacle of intimidation to keep the workforce in line and silent.
It's not like they did it very privately. They would come with security and they would tell you, get your things, you're leaving, you're fired. Don't make a scene because it's not going to look good on you. Out of the blue, you're working and you're doing your job, and then you see security coming with this other person, and they pretty much escort you out of the facility, and that's very humiliating.
Fact number 4. When supervisors were alerted to men with fake IDs applying to sponsor, they didn't fix the system, they weaponized it. Caseworkers who tried to verify IDs were punished or shown the door in humiliating fashions.
There are good people that are working on these sites and working at HHS, but they're terrified to come forward. They have seen examples made of people that come forward.
So this is a department that is rotten from the top.
To the core.
And again, the question is, how far down does it go before you just get to the people who just want to keep their heads down and are terrified of, the snakehead at the top?
Fact 5. Those 323,000 missing children, HHS didn't lose them. They're delivered to the address designated by cartels, a system so efficient it turns children into parcels, dispatched to whatever nefarious fate awaits them.
Now, they find them in forced labor. I guarantee there's some in child pornography movies now.
These children are a captive victim population with no access to law enforcement or knowledge of their rights. They are extorted, abused, neglected.
This isn't just gross negligence. It's deliberate, government-sanctioned child trafficking mechanisms designed to exploit the most vulnerable under the guise of care.
When you make the promises this administration's made, that you can cross the border, you won't be detained, we'll give you a work authorization, and guess what? ICE can't arrest you because you sit here illegally. When you make those type of promises, the most vulnerable people in the world are going to put themselves in the hands of these cartels to be smuggled across the border. This administration's policies are dumb. They're killing record number of Americans. They've killed a record number of migrants. And God help us, thousands of these children are in very bad situations right now. And someday it's going to come out. And we need to hold these people responsible.
Amen. Amen.
We are talking about a level of evil that most of us can't wrap our head around. To build out a military-style child trafficking operation at this scale, it would require compromised government officials at every level. Timelines matter. I want you to pay attention to which 3-letter government agencies created this military-style child trafficking network. And I want to walk you through the 289 executive orders that Joe Biden had signed in his first year in office. On January 20th of 2021, President Biden issued 93 executive orders, obliterating every immigration policy ever created by the Trump administration. On January 20th of 2021, President Biden issued Executive Order, further entrenching the unlawful Deferred Action of Childhood Arrival program, also known as DACA. With his actions, President Biden directed the Secretary of Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas, in collusion with the Attorney General Merrick Garland, to preserve and fortify DACA, signaling to illegal alien children that his administration supports amnesty and that illegal aliens need not fear coming to the U.S. or worry about immigration enforcement. February 6th of 2021, Secretary of State Anthony Blinken suspended and began to terminate procedures for the Trump administration's asylum cooperative agreement with El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras. These agreements ensured that aliens seeking asylum could do so in countries closer to their home country and in other countries other than the United States. Now pay attention to this date, America. On March 30th of 2021, a couple months into this administration, every member of Congress could see the writing on the walls. So on March 30th of 2021, the Office of Refugee Resettlement, ORR, took drastic action to expand detention space to house unaccompanied alien children in so-called influx care facilities, often used in unlicensed facilities that lack child welfare or experience. In March, April, and May of 2021, ORR expanded capacity to house another 23,849, including 10,000 at Fort Bliss. DHS was also holding children for a longer period than allowed by law, which is 30 to 40 days. And because the flow of these UACs across the border outpaced Health and Human Services' ability to vet adults who care for the children. When I say that this is by design, this is what I mean. So now here we are on March 31st of 2021. We have laws in place and policies in place to protect the children. There were so many children coming in that the policies that we had to protect them were getting in the way.
Because of the volume of children that were coming across in the last 4 years, and a part of that, HHS and DHS joint statement of termination of disagreement, and this was from March of 2021, my brothers and sisters. This was a policy decision to step away from the strict means by which these children were monitored and controlled. And what it was replaced with was this sponsor care agreement. There's nothing to this. It's 3.5 pages, 2 pages of nothing that the criminal networks can easily take advantage of.
So on March 31st of 2021, the Department of Health and Human Services, HHS, Office of Refugee Resettlement, ORR, issued guidance rolling back requirements for background checks on adults in the households of UACs. So what that means is, prior to March 31st of 2021, every person that lived in a household had to have a background check. Because they couldn't complete all of those background checks in time to make sure that the child was safe, they intentionally removed them. This is criminal America. Do you think our military played a role, America? On April 30th of 2021, the Biden administration canceled further wall construction, which is being led by the Department of Defense. June 16th, 2021, Attorney General Merrick Garland rescinds the Trump-era decisions in matter of AB 1 and AB 2, thereby expanding asylum eligibility to include gender and domestic relationships as central social groups, reverting to policy under matter ARCG. October 29th, 2021, DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas terminated the Migrant Protection Protocols, known as the MPP, or Remain in Mexico. November 29th, 2021, the Biden administration formally created a program that included alternatives to detention, plus parole, resulting in the catch and release for hundreds of thousands of aliens into the U.S. interior after they were encountered at the border. 338,000 aliens were released in fiscal year 2022 alone under this program. Now this next part I want to be crystal clear. This is a Democrat agenda. It's being bankrolled by Republicans. I want to show you the timeline on how the Democrats put this agenda in place, and then it was Republicans who took control of the House on January 20th of 2023. Since then, they have had the power of the purse. Since then, they have had all of the evidence they needed to use their oversight powers to shut this down. Do you remember when Republicans told us,
the power of the purse, and we will use it.
Use the power of the purse to stop funding it. Because you know what? If you fund it, you own it.
That's why we have to look at the power of the purse. We have to look at the appropriations process.
One is oversight, and that's a job that we have, and also, of course, the use of the power of the purse.
We will use the power of the purse and the power of the subpoena to get the job done.
That body, which stands for election every 2 years, to be the body closest to the people deciding how we spend the money. So we have to exercise our authority, the power of the purse, to limit what the federal government, what the FBI and the Justice Department are doing to the American people.
And that we use the power of the purse that was given to us to do our job.
That the Congress has a responsibility. We have the power of the purse.
This is not using the power of the purse. This is abdicating the power of the purse.
Where everyone is on Mike Johnson is it's all about his actions, because he's really good at talking. He's great at talking. He's not good at acting.
That's the power of the purse, and we will use it, and we will use it.
We should recognize the power of the purse. They, in a word, hold the purse. This power over the purse may in fact be regarded as, and this is the most important part, we control the power of the purse.
But the fact that the Congress, controlled by Republicans, that controls the purse, what are you guys going to do to contain the FBI?
That's why we sent the letter. That's why we sent the letter.
I can tell you right now, people are going to stop supporting Republicans if Republicans don't get their act together and actually do something about this. Republicans continually have their head up their ass and can't figure out how to actually use the power that the people gave us. People are sick and tired of a feckless, useless Republican Party that never does a damn thing to stop any of this.
So we got to keep talking about it. We got to pass legislation if we can to deal with it. And then we have to look at the money, the appropriations, and say, how can we direct these funds? How can we better position these funds? What can we do to stop this from happening in the future?
On February 25th, 2023, so about 45 days after Republicans took control of the House, the New York Times published a report that said alone and exploited, migrant children work brutal jobs across the U.S., arriving in record numbers. They are ending up in dangerous jobs that violate child labor laws, including factories that make products for well-known brands like Cheetos and Fruit of the Loom. This report expands in great detail that HHS, under the guidance of Xavier Becerra, had lost over 85,000 migrant children. Fast forward about a month. On April 26th of 2023, the House Judiciary Committee hosted an oversight investigation titled House Committee Holds Hearing on Unaccompanied Migrant Children. On July 27th of 2023, the House Oversight Committee on Energy and Commerce hosted an oversight hearing titled Stopping the Exploitation of Migrant Children. And this was the oversight of HHS Office of Refugee Resettlement. On October 25th of 2023, Senator Grassley and Senator Cassidy hosted a roundtable investigation titled The Exploitation Crisis, How the U.S. Government Fails to Protect Migrant Children from Trafficking and Abuse. What members of Congress were on the House Judiciary Committee, you may ask? Well, 23 Republicans and 17 Democrats, with ranking member Gerald the Garden Gnome Trollbridge Nadler. The House Committee on Energy and Commerce has 29 Republicans and 23 Democrats. Senator Grassley's roundtable had about 5. That means that there are over 100 different politicians in Washington, D.C. that were actually at hearings or on committees that directly investigated this child trafficking nightmare. Yet not one of them has done anything to stop it. I want to be crystal clear. The Republicans control the power of the purse. They have had all the evidence they need to shut this operation down. Not only did they not shut it down, they increased funding to accelerate this operation.
Republicans released a jaw-dropping report revealing nearly $500 billion of your tax dollars have gone to the border crisis under Biden.
Our first condition on any national security supplemental spending package is about our own national security first. The border is an absolute catastrophe.
Then they do the opposite. Is there some sort of secret oath that Republicans take after the cameras go away to actually not do any of the things that they just promised to do? I mean, seriously.
Mike Johnson, he's the uniparty speaker now. He's about to commit his third betrayal today of the American public. The first betrayal was an omnibus bill.
And this omnibus bill that just passed, they're getting the biggest payday of their lives. We're talking billions and billions of dollars through HHS, and DHS will then be handed over for this whole processing operation. It's a staggering amount of money to move a staggering amount of people. And basically what happens is Border Patrol turns over illegal aliens to these NGOs, and the NGOs provide them with onward transits wherever they need to go.
What you expose with these NGOs, which is all paid for by tax dollars, by your tax dollars.
It's the U.S. government and NGOs and charities such as Catholic Charities that are basically financing and facilitating this. We exposed it. We're calling on Congress to defund it, to make this activity illegal for NGOs to participate in it.
When we dive into the murky waters of NGOs linked to this government-backed child trafficking operation, the numbers are staggering. The Office of Refugee Resettlement, ORR, boasts about managing 289 facilities across 29 states. But dig a little deeper, and you'll find that over 14,000 NGOs in America are supposedly aiding migrant children. Today's focus, 3 key players: Southwest Key Programs, MVM Inc., and Endeavors. Let's tackle Southwest Key Programs first. Back on June 18th of 2018, a user on X that goes by the name of @LastRefugee2 laid it all out. Southwest Key Programs wasn't just shady. It was the epicenter of immigration exploitation. They uncovered that this outfit in 2014 was allegedly paying South American human smugglers with our tax dollars. A staggering 98% of their revenue comes from government grants. Fast forward to 2024, and Southwest Key Programs has morphed into what could only be described as the most profitable child prison camp empire in America, boasting about 56 locations across 18 states. From 2020 to 2024, they've pocketed a cool $2,890,997,217 from us, the taxpayer. Now consider, in light of what's been laid bare in this timeline, and my first documentary, What is Treason? #Trafficked, we can assume that every single member of Congress, every senator, and every politician with a shred of awareness knows that our taxes are funding the world's most extensive child trafficking network. Not once has either party used their power to protect these children.
You've often spoken about your partnership with these NGOs. Who's paying for this? Are you aware of who's funding these NGOs?
We are grateful for the appropriations that Congress...
So the United States taxpayer is funding them, is what you're saying?
Alejandro Mayorkas is secure in his job, far more secure than America's border. And Republicans will just keep giving the Department of Homeland Security and the rest of the Biden regime our money.
What they are using that money for is to entice people to enter the country illegally, but at the same time, they're aiding and abetting people who are circumventing the vetting process so that we know who are the criminals, who are the ones that are trafficking children.
This administration refuses to do anything about it, and the Democrats refuse to do anything about it in Congress. And I am sad to say that probably half of our Republican conference, they're willing to just keep funding this government instead of saying no more money for this government until you secure the border. Quite frankly, many of my colleagues in my own party here in Congress refuse to acknowledge it.
America. What if I told you that in addition to appropriations, Congress has oversight roles over federal agencies? Congress carries out this function by holding hearings, and they conduct oversight of agency enforcement operations, functions, and policies. Congress may pass a law that directs an agency to take action on a certain subject and set a schedule for the agency to follow it in issuing rules. More often, an agency surveys its area of legal responsibility and then decides which issues or goals have priorities for rulemaking. Congress can overturn executive orders by passing legislation that immediately defunds them. Hey America, did you know that Congress has the ability to overturn executive orders by passing legislation that invalidates them? Congress can also refuse to fund executive orders or policy measures they contain. That means that on January 20th of 2023, when Speaker McCarthy became Speaker of the House, Republicans had the ability to overturn every single executive order that Joe Biden put into place. But they did it.
These are the same traitors, the same treasonous Republicans who just voted to send $100 billion to Ukraine and Israel and Taiwan and then keep our border spigot flowing. They're in on it.
So you also discovered certain NGO groups, such as Catholic Charities. Yeah. They are helping out these illegal immigrants. They're actually funded by the Republican Party.
Yes, these are groups that are to the left of most mainstream religions. They're liberal Christian charity groups, and they have formed various NGOs. The Lutherans have one, Catholic Charities another one, and they don't believe in borders. And yet we funded them. The Republican budget last time around actually gave these NGOs the money to keep doing what they've been doing for a couple years. So yes, we have evidence that NGOs are deeply involved.
The evidence is out there, circulating on platforms like X, in independent reports, and through the brave whistleblowers who risked everything to expose this. The question isn't whether this is happening. The question is, why is it allowed to continue?
The people that are entering the United States and remaining in the United States to continue a process of legalization, they are releasing them to us so that we can make sure that they are put in a bus by their families. We contact their families and they can move on and be safe. We got, I guess you could say, got lucky to get reimbursed to some of the efforts that we've been doing for so long. And that is taxpayers' money.
They are basically helping the cartels make their money, and they're making a little money on the side for them. I know that people would like to say these are religious organizations. They may be loosely affiliated with their respective churches, but they are not the churches. And basically what's happening now is the federal government is using these organizations to launder illegal immigration.
Every dollar we've unknowingly given to these entities has funded not just a policy failure, but an orchestrated scheme of child exploitation.
We start off with a massive investigation into Southwest Key, the allegations of sex crimes against undocumented migrant children and intimidating them not to report it.
The federal lawsuit alleges a pattern of abuse for nearly a decade, claiming multiple Southwest Key employees harassed and abused these unaccompanied minors as young as 5 years old up to teens shy of 18 years old.
As seen in the DOJ lawsuit against Southwest Key for sexual abuse of children in those shelters. Meanwhile, taxpayer dollars fund no-bid contracts for these NGOs, whose CEOs have tripled their salaries, hire staff teaching migrant girls to dance provocatively, and continue receiving payments for undelivered services.
This is a tragedy, and it is treason, because this is not bad policy or bad mistakes or somebody's incompetent. This is intentional. So when you do intentional acts against your nation, that is treason.
So, Mr. Carroll, my colleagues on the minority are very concerned, though, about your language. What do you think of that?
I find it fascinating and interesting that after hearing about all this testimony, and right now, thousands of children are being raped, children are being murdered, and I'm going to quote President Trump when he said, a lot of these children are already dead, end quote. All this tragedy that we're dealing with. And we want to talk about what I said about Speaker Johnson in a podcast that I don't even remember. And I'll be glad to talk about Speaker Johnson and him funding NGOs to the hilt. I would love to talk about that as well.
So let's play a game. Deep state Republican versus deep swamp Democrat. You tell me who gave more money to the NGO, and then tell me how much more on a percentage basis. We have 3 NGOs, Southwest Key Programs, MVM Inc., and Endeavors. Who do you think gave more money to Southwest Key Programs? Was it A, the world's greatest stock trader, Nancy Pelosi, or was it B, the man who watches porn with his son, Speaker Mike Johnson? Well, if you guessed Speaker Mike Johnson, you nailed it. From 2020 to 2022, under a Democrat-controlled House, Southwest Key Programs received $1,147,957,960 in federal grants. From 2022 to 2024, when Republicans controlled the power of the purse, Southwest Key Programs received $1,743,039,257 in federal grants. When Republicans controlled the power of the purse, funding for Southwest Key Programs increased by $595,081,297. That's an increase of 35%. If you are enjoying this game, do me a favor, smash that like button and share this video. Now let's talk about MVM Inc. You know the CIA contractor who used to run Black Ops missions for the DoD during the Iraq War? Well, before the war drums even stopped beating, MVM Inc. was awarded the first contract to traffic migrant children for the Biden administration. Who do you think gave MVM Inc. more money? NASDAQ Nancy Pelosi or Mike OnlyFans Johnson? Well, if you guessed Speaker Johnson, you nailed it. From 2020 to 2022, MVM Inc. received $227 million in federal grants. From 2022 to 2024, MVM Inc. received $788 million in federal grants. When Republicans controlled the power of the purse, funding for MVM Inc. increased by $561 million. That is an increase of 71.3%. Last but not least, we have Endeavors. If you'd like to learn more about Endeavors, follow Hernando Arce on X. He calls their facilities the American Replacement Centers. Who do you think gave more money to Endeavors? Was it Hide the Hammer Pelosi or strongly worded letter Jim Jordan, Speaker Johnson? Well, if you guessed Hide the Hammer Pelosi, you were wrong. From 2020 to 2022, Endeavors received $11,092,415 in federal grants. From 2022 to 2024, Endeavors received $115,888,931 in federal grants. When Republicans controlled the power of the purse, funding for Endeavors increased by $104,796,516. This is an increase of 91.5%. When Republicans officially took control of the House, there were roughly 85,000 unaccompanied alien children missing in America. All of the evidence was there and it was overwhelming. Today, 323,000 unaccompanied alien children are missing. That means roughly 240,000 additional children have been lost by HHS because the Republicans failed to do their job. Are you okay with this, America? How many cowards in the conservative journalist space have interviewed these scumbag Republicans and continue to bring them on their podcast, the do-nothing, strongly worded letter Republicans, and not once do they ask them about these children? It's time we wake up and we demand accountability because in this story, the villains are those who we've entrusted with our governance, our tax dollars, and most tragically, the safety of the world's most vulnerable.
This rope is used to tie up children and women to these trees, tying their hands together so they can't struggle and fight and fall back.
And they take turns.
This is gang raping, guys. This isn't, just your typical. This is violent gang rape.
The condoms and the lube were right next to the kid's shirt and the socks. The kid's socks. Sick. All this stuff just left.
The probability that thousands of these UACs are being raped at this very moment is 100%.
Human trafficking is one of the greatest humanitarian crises of our lifetime. The very system meant to protect vulnerable children has become a trafficking pipeline.
Children, boys and girls, are being sold for sex. Cases of migrant children as young as 8 with sexually transmitted diseases. 8 years old.
Dear America, I have a message from God. Matthew 18:6. If anyone causes one of these little ones, those who believe in me, to sin, it would be better for them to have a large millstone hung around their neck and to be drowned in the depths of the sea. What if I told you that God sent me on a mission to rescue these 437,103 missing migrant children? Hear me now, for I come bringing not just a message, but a prophecy. A storm is brewing, one that will not be quenched by the tears of the wicked, but fueled by the resolve of the righteous. To the predators, the pedophiles, the soulless who prey on the innocent, heed this warning. Your time in the shadows is diminishing. The light of justice is piercing through, and men of valor, men with the fire of righteousness in their veins, are stepping forth. You have hidden, you have schemed, believing yourself unseen. But know this, every whisper of your vile acts, every hidden corner where you thought you could conduct your depravity, will be flushed into the open. I stand before you, not as a man, but as a herald of a new age, clad in the armor of God, which is not merely a metaphor, but a reality of unyielding resolve. I, and those like me, fear no man, no threat, no shadow. We will never bend a knee to tyranny, to a vice, or to corruption of the soul. This is more than just a call to arms, it's a divine mission. A mission to expose, to dismantle, to eradicate the darkness that festers in the hearts of those who would harm the defenseless. There is no corner of this earth, no depth of the web, no sanctuary of the night where you will find refuge. We are coming with the tenacity of warriors and the compassion of saints. We will hunt you down, not just for vengeance, but for the protection of the innocent, for the future where children laugh without fear and women walk without dread. Predators, pedophiles, hear me well. Your days are numbered. Be prepared to face the wrath of those who have taken up the mantle of justice. For we are on a divine mission, unyielding, relentless, and we will not stop until justice is served. We've preyed on the innocent, the helpless. Now it's you who will feel the fear. There will be nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. Your names, your faces, and every ounce of your pathetic existence will be exposed. We are God's army, and we are coming for you. May God's justice be done on earth as it is in heaven. Amen.
I don't know if you noticed, but her braces are donated by friends of mine too.
Really?
You're making no one leaves here without a beautiful smile.
Ah.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, I stand before you not just to share a story, but to ignite a spark of compassion, a flame of action in each of our hearts. I want to talk about men like Bob McDonnell, an American patriot whose heart beats for humanity beyond borders. Bob McDonnell, a man whose life's mission has led him to the streets of El Salvador, not for personal gains, but to combat one of the darkest trades on earth, human trafficking. In my travels across this vast country, investigating the grim realities of child trafficking, I have witnessed the despair and the hope, the darkness and the light. Amidst the many organizations I've encountered, there is one that stands out, a beacon of true safety and rehabilitation, Mikasa Kids, led by Bob McDonnell. His organization, the House of Life, is not just about rescue, it's about transformation. Bob's mission goes way beyond rescue. He provides a sanctuary for those who have suffered the unimaginable. Women and children who are not only trafficked but often violated by those who they should have trusted the most, their family and relatives. These survivors, all of whom have become pregnant through such heinous acts, find not just temporary shelter at Bob's facility, but a home where they can nurture and raise their children. The transformations I witnessed in these young mothers and these children is nothing short of miraculous. The joy and happiness on the faces of these children, who knew nothing but fear and pain, is a testament to the healing power of the love and security provided by Bob's organization. Knowing where these children came from versus where they are after spending just 1 year under Bob's care. It's a fucking miracle. What this man has done for these children, I've never seen anything like it. If you guys could just skip 1 cup of coffee, this is where you send your money. This guy's truly saving lives. Oh, yeah, is there anything that she would like to tell me, or anything that she feels is important that other people know?
Que es muy bonito y es un lugar muy especial para las madres que aquí pueden tener muchas oportunidades.
That here is a very special place, and it's a very good place, and it's a place where young mothers can have a lot of opportunities.
Now imagine for a moment, if you will, the life of these children. Picture their fear, their pain, and their desperate need for salvation. Now consider that, with a donation as modest as the cost of your daily coffee, you could be part of their rescue. For every $30,000 donated, the House of Life can prevent 12,000 individuals from enduring the horrors of rape and abuse. Let that sink in. Your small act of kindness can literally save thousands from a lifetime of trauma.
Between the ages of 12 and 17 years old in New York City, this little girl was raped. We guess about 60,000 times before she was finally set free. And that's the fate of thousands of children.
I was ignorant. So the fastest growing enterprise in the world is child sex trafficking.
Fastest growing criminal enterprise in the world is the selling of people.
In a world often overshadowed by individual pursuit and self-interest, here stands Bob McDonnell, a testament to what one person's resolve can achieve. His work isn't about borders or nationalities. It's about the universal language of human kindness and justice. He's not just saving lives, he's restoring hope and dignity where there was absolutely none. I ask you today, with the warmth of your morning coffee in your hands, to consider the power of a simple donation. If you could, skip just 1 cup of coffee, or perhaps a few. Imagine the difference that money could make when pulled together. It's not just about the money, it's about what that money represents, our collective empathy, or commitment to humanity. Each one of us has the power to change the narrative for somebody else. Every dollar you donate is a step towards breaking the chains of human trafficking. It's an investment in a future where every child can grow up free and where every woman can walk without fear. Let's honor the spirit of men like Bob McDonnell by joining his mission. Let's make a concise choice to part with small luxury, knowing fully well that our sacrifice can lead to somebody else's salvation. Together, let's build a house of life in every corner of the world where darkness lurks, turning it into light. Thank you, and may we all find the courage to act, the heart to care, and the willingness to give. Remember, it's not just about money, it's about making a difference, 1 cup of coffee at a time. Together, we can change the world. If you'd like to learn more about Bob's organization, please watch the full interview. It'll be linked down in the description, or it'll be posted in the comments as well. Bob is truly a hero. Words can't describe what I saw. I've been to a lot of these facilities that claim that they actually care for children, and you see how the children are treated in these facilities here in America. The look on these girls' faces when I walked in and I was with Bob, and seeing them laugh and smile and joke, and the love they have for Bob. He's became the father figure that every one of these women, Bob's became the father figure that every one of these children wish they had. Bob is the father that every one of us wish we had as well. I've never found one in this entire time of doing this, one organization that I could tell you, America, that yes, if you donate here, your money will directly go to saving children. And I'll do one further. I'm going to be down in El Salvador quite often. So I'll show you where your money's going. Please consider watching the videos down below in the description. This man's really saving lives. The QR code you are looking at here on the screen is Bob's PayPal. Bob also has Venmo, and he also has donation links directly on his website. We have got him set up, so no matter how you'd like to donate, he can accept your donations. PayPal, Bitcoin, Venmo, and I believe a GiveSendGo. All of which will be right down below in the description. $5, guys. This isn't America. Bob doesn't need hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. He needs $30,000 to bring in another 6 girls off the street. He already has the girls waiting. He just needs to secure the funding. I promised him that we would do it. So help me. Help Bob, help me raise this $30,000. And I'll give you a front row seat so you can hear directly from the kids. Do you imagine getting raped by your father, your uncle, your brother? Do you imagine getting raped by your cousin and then going to your grandma at 6 just to have your grandma beat you bloody and tell you that it was your fault because you wore shorts? That is the trauma that these girls have been through. That's one of their stories. And the joy that I've seen on these girls' faces, I'll show you. God bless you guys.
Are you ready to stand for justice and all the values that define our nation? On our website, thisistreason.com, we have a petition for the implementation of the death penalty for child rape in all 50 states. We are on a mission to gather 10 million signatures from American patriots just like you and deliver them to President Donald J. Trump. Let's send a message to the pedophiles in Washington, D.C. Demand that the federal government ensures the death penalty is implemented across all 50 states for any adult over the age of 21 who rapes a minor child who is under the age of 17. Make your voices heard. Your signature on this petition will be a direct message to President Donald Trump, advocating for decisive action. The time to act is now, America. Your signature could be the one that tips the scale. Join us, make a difference, and let's show our commitment to upholding the law. Sign the petition today at thisistreason.com.
If everybody were to watch a documentary, What is Treason? #trafficked, if everybody watched that, all 300 plus million Americans, Trump would win like this. I don't know why it's not the number one issue. Every time I come back from an operation, I'm just like incensed when I read the news, like what made the headlines. The headlines every day should be, millions of kids are enslaved and the United States is driving the market with their policies. So I would encourage more to come out, more to whistleblow. I would encourage them to be as loud as they can. I know there's the Hatch Act and there's certain things they can't do, as public officials, but we need a change in administration. We need somebody like Donald Trump who understands what's going on and will put an end to this.
Will the Trump administration commit to finding these children?
I haven't been asked that question, but the answer is yes. It's a simple answer.
A lot of people have wondered, how is this going to work?
You know Tom Homan, you said we did the greatest job in the history of the border.
Every president I've worked for said they're going to secure the border. President Trump actually did it.
Tom Homan's coming back. Yeah, Tom Homan's coming back. I would say that would be announced next week, except I'd rather announce it now.
We got over 300,000 missing children. Over 500,000 children have been trafficked into the United States. This administration released them to unvetted sponsors, and they can't find 300,000. When President Trump's president again, we will go rescue these children and save them.
I asked Donald Trump in my interview with him, would you locate these children? Will you promise to find the children that the Biden administration has lost? And he told me straight up, that's easy.
We need to save these children.
Everybody on Locals has been asking, what do I get if I become a paid member to your Locals, right, Meta?
Well, what you're going to get is you're going to get a front row seat at all of the behind the scenes footage as I'm traveling across the country, filming documentary after documentary after documentary, with a main focus on human and child trafficking. So where are we at right now? We're in San Diego. We're right here along the Mexico-California border. It's Tijuana over there. This is the United States over here. This is San Diego. And this area is called Whiskey 8. So over here behind us, you see these tents over there in the distance, and you see that trailer. That trailer is a giant shrine, and it has 8,300 names on this back wall. And those are the migrants that have died attempting to migrate to America. And those tents over there, those white tents, those are NGO shelters that are stacked with food, groceries, diapers, cooking stations, pots, pans, water, medicine, you name it. COVID-19 testing kits are all in there, all bought and paid for with our tax dollars. So we're down here with Audra Morgan. She goes by Eye of the Storm SD. She's an absolute hero, legend, and a patriot. This is Tijuana over here. What's really unique about this spot of the border is you got the double border wall. So across there is Tijuana. You can see we have an 18-foot to a 30-foot border wall, depending on where it's at. And then on this side, we have an 18-foot border wall with 3 rows of Constantino razor wire. And what's really unique about this is they're starting to use cement poles. So I assume that's because the cartels have been cutting through the border wall. If it's steel, it's just easy. With any saw blade, you can just chop right through it and easily weld it back together. Now these cement pillars are drastically different. So it looks like we either have steel or aluminum on the inside, and then these pillars are wrapped in concrete, which is really unique. So this is the kind of stuff that you guys are going to get over here on Locals. You guys are going to get a behind-the-scenes look at exactly everything that goes into travel, all of the work that we go, setting up equipment, the behind-the-scenes look. You guys are going to get that all over here on Locals for $4.99. So I just despise sponsors. I don't want Ryan mad at anything to ever be brought to you by Pfizer or Moderna or Big Pharma or Big Business or Big Corporation or let alone Big Government. So in order to keep this operation up and running and to continue to scale it at the rate that I want to scale it, where you guys have a never-ending supply of content coming in order to do that, you have to have a team of people working for you. I have to have several editors. I have 4 editors right now. 4. One documentary is $20,000 just to edit it. One full documentary edited with just one editor. And that's only a 30-day documentary. That's not including if this gentleman has to work for 6 months editing one film. So they can drastically ratchet up. But let's say the very cheapest we could do it, and that's if I edit it a lot, is $10,000. If I have an editor, edit all of it, at the very least it's $20,000. So that is just to pay the editor. Not to count the flights. So when me and JJ filmed our documentary, we took 13 trips. 13 trips all across America. That's 2 flights, and every flight when you're flying now is at the very least $500, if not upwards of $900 to $1,000, just for one flight. And a lot of these times we'll get a whistleblower or a source that'll contact us last minute and be like, hey, I can do this interview on this date, and it's a week out, and now your ticket's $1,200. So all of those things add up. We got flights. Every time I fly in, you see this rental car, and no, I didn't upgrade to the GM Arcadia model, right? Because I travel so much, they upgraded me for free. So I have to pay for the standard price of a car, and I got like the next level up in their SUVs. So every time I travel, I'm always at the absolute bare minimum. Now, when I'm doing interviews and I'm renting an Airbnb, I have to have enough room to set up. So a lot of the 1-bedroom apartments, they just don't cut it. So you pretty much always have to rent, at the very least, a 2-bedroom house or a house that has an open dining room. You can't just go and do one of the, 1-room rentals where you just get a room, because I have to bring people over, I have to interview, I have to set up my lights, I have to build out a studio inside these facilities. So when you guys are watching these videos and you guys are getting the behind-the-scenes look, you guys will fully understand how much work and money and time and resources go into this. Just the travel, what me and JJ spent, I think, was $63,000, and that was just out of the money that I brought out of my own pocket. It's expensive to be out here. People that produce content on this level, they have teams, they have editors, they have a personal assistant, they have managers. We're doing it out here by ourselves, baby, and we're always going to be brought to you right here just by you guys. God bless you guys, and hopefully you guys enjoy this content. Drop those comments, share it, tell your friends. Our goal is to get 1,000 $5 a month supporters. If we can get 1,000 $5 a month supporters, we can take this to the next level. If we can get 2,000, we can start to build the team. If we can get 3,000, which will be about $15,000 a month, we can blow the roof off of this thing. And that means giveaways, that means special meet and greets, that means events, that means so much more to make this feel like it's a team effort, because that's what we are. We're Team America, baby. We're Team Freedom. We're Team God Bless the USA. We're Team Donald Trump 2024. Let's get this man back in the White House. Let's rescue these women and children. God bless you. God bless America. We out. Peace.